Philip Schaff was a Swiss-born, German-educated Protestant theologian and a church historian who spent most of his adult life living and teaching in the United States. Biography. Schaff was born in Chur, Switzerland, and educated at the Gymnasium of Stuttgart. At the universities of Tübingen, Halle and Berlin, he was successively influenced by Ferdinand Christian Bohr and Schmid, by Friedrich August Thorlach and Julius Müller, by David Strauss and, above all, Johann August Wilhelm Neander. At Berlin in 1841 he took the degree of Bachelor of Divinity and passed examinations for a professorship. He then traveled through Italy and Sicily as tutor to Baron Krischer. In 1842, he was private docent in the University of Berlin, where he lectured on exegesis and church history. In 1843, he was called to become professor of church history and biblical literature in the German Reformed Theological Seminary of Mercersburg, Pennsylvania, then the only seminary of the church in America. On his journey, Schaff stayed in England and met Edward Pusey and other Tractarians. His inaugural address on the principle of Protestantism, delivered in German at Reading, Pennsylvania, in 1844, and published in German with an English version by John Williamson Nevin, was a pioneer work in English in the field of symbolics. This address and the Mercersburg theology, which he taught, seemed too pro-Catholic to some, and he was charged with heresy. But, at the Synod at York in 1845, he was unanimously acquitted. Schaff's broad views strongly influenced the German Reformed Church through his teaching at Mercersburg, through his championship of English in German Reformed churches and schools in America, through his hymnal, through his labors as chairman of the committee which prepared a new liturgy, and by his edition of the Heidelberg Catechism, so much so that when the German Reformed Church, in a desire to begin producing more and better published material for the denomination, published Samuel Miller's work entitled A Treatise on Mercersburg Theology, Mercersburg and Modern Theology Compared, in 1866. Schaff's History of the Apostolic Church and his History of the Christian Church opened a new period in American study of ecclesiastical history. In 1854, Schaff visited Europe, representing the American German churches at the Ecclesiastical Diet at Frankfurt am Main and at the Swiss Pastoral Conference at Basel. He lectured in Germany on America, and received the degree of D.D. from Berlin. In consequence of the ravages of the American Civil War, the Theological Seminary at Mercersburg was closed for a while, and so in 1863 Schaff became secretary of the Sabbath Committee in New York City, and held the position till 1870. In 1865 he founded the first German Sunday school in Stuttgart. In 1862 to 1867 he lectured on church history at Andover. Schaff was a member of the Leipzig Historical Society, the Netherlands Historical Society, and other historical and literary societies in Europe and America. He was one of the founders, and honorary secretary, of the American branch of the Evangelical Alliance, and was sent to Europe in 1869, 1872, and 1873 to arrange for the General Conference of the Alliance, which, after two postponements on account of the Franco-Prussian War, was held in New York in October 1873. Schaff was also, in 1871, one of the Alliance delegates to the Emperor of Russia to plead for the religious liberty of his subjects in the Baltic provinces. Schaff became a professor at Union Theological Seminary, New York City in 1870, holding first the chair of Theological Encyclopedia and Christian Symbolism till 1873, of Hebrew and the cognate languages till 1874. 1864, of sacred literature till 1887, and finally of church history, until his death. He also served as president of the committee that translated the American Standard Version of the Bible, though he died before it was published in 1901. Schaff's history of the Christian Church resembled Neander's work, though less biographical, and was pictorial rather than philosophical. He also wrote biographies, catechisms and hymnals for children, manuals of religious verse, lectures and essays on Dante, etc. He translated Johann Jacob Herzog's Real Encyclopedia for Protestant theology unkischig into English, working with the Evangelical Alliance and the Chicago World's Parliament of Religions, and in Germany, through the monthly Kirchenfreund. Schaff strove earnestly to promote Christian unity and union. It was his hope that the Pope would abandon the doctrine of infallibility and undertake the reunion of Christianity. He recognized that he was a mediator between German and Anglo-American theology and Christianity. He died October 20, 1893, and is buried in Woodlawn Cemetery in the Bronx, New York City. David Schaff. His son, David Schlee Schaff, was a Presbyterian clergyman and professor of church history. David wrote his father's biography in 1897. Works: History of the Apostolic Church 1874, English ed. The Life and Labors of St. Augustine. History of the Christian Church, Slavery and the Bible, The Creeds of Christendom, with a History and Critical Notes, Volume I, Volume 2, Volume 3, Through Bible Lands, Notes of Travel in Egypt, the Desert and Palestine. A Library of Religious Poetry, a collection of the best religious poems of all ages and tongues. The new Schaff-Herzog Encyclopedia of Religious Knowledge. Schaff edited the European Herzog Encyclopedia for an American audience. This is a revision of that work. Volume IX. Philip Schaff's Letter Book, Private Correspondence from June 2, 1868 to August 26, 1881.